Good morning. Today we're going to talk about properties of logarithms. And the properties of logarithms are very similar to the properties that we use with exponents. So you just got to kind of think backwards since they are inverses of each other. So I'm going to give you an example of each one and then we'll play around with some of them. You should have a worksheet in your hand by the time you're done with this, so you can work on that for your practice today. But I'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so here's the exponents rule that we remember. When multiplying, add exponents. That basically means x to the third. If you had x to the third times x to the fifth, you would add your exponents, right? So you'd end up with x to the eighth. Well, with logarithms, we work backwards. When you're multiplying bases, you're going to add the logarithms. What does that mean? That means, let's look at this one. If you have the log of 9x, okay, it's basically taking the log of 9 times x. So now you got to go, well, what would I do with these if these were the exponents? You would take the log of 9 plus the log of x. That is all you do, okay? So when you see multiplying with logs, you can do the same thing and add them. And if you don't believe me, let's try it with real numbers. So let's say you had the log of 2 times 3. Well, that is the same as the log of 2 plus the log of 3. If you put that in your calculator, you'll get a number out. That's really the same as the log of 6. All right, so you can go and check to see, does this add up to the same thing as the log of 6? It does. All right, let's try another property. Okay, here's the exponents rule. When you raise an exponent to another power, you multiply the exponents. It's basically saying anything, let's say we're going to raise it to the 5th power, and let's say we're going to raise this to the 2nd power. This is going to get multiplied, and we're going to get a to the 10th power. All right, so the logarithms rule does the same thing. When finding the log of a number with an exponent, you multiply the log of the base by that number. That makes no sense until you see it. All right, here's the log of 8 squared. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this number 2 here and put it over here and multiply it in front. So this becomes 2 times the log of 8. Now you can check this with your calculator because they should be coming out the same. And we don't really use these until we have variables. So right now with numbers, they come out the same. Let's try another one. Let's say you want to find the log of 8. Let's do another 8 to the 1/3. Okay, which is basically the cube root of 8, right? So your exponent's going to come over here and it's going to jump over there and it becomes 1/3 times the log of 8. They should come out the same. Okay, so I just calculated that with my calculator just to be sure. So what we just did, we moved that 1/3 in front of the log and then just did the log of 8. And it comes out exactly the same as log of 8 to the 1/3. So it works very well with numbers, but we use these properties when we're solving for x's and y's. All right, so let's play around with another property. The next one says the exponents rule. When you divide your bases and they're the same, you subtract the exponents. So remember, if you had 2 to the 5th over 2 to the 3rd, that's the same as 2 to the 2nd power. All right, so we're going to do the same thing with logarithms. When you're taking the log of a quotient, you're going to subtract the logs. So let's look at one, the log of a quotient. All right, you're basically going to do log of 2 minus log of 3. That's all you do. And you can check that with your calculator again and make sure that that comes out the same. All right, let's play around with a couple of them that are on your worksheet. At this point right now, I want you to raise your hand if you don't have the properties of logarithms worksheet. It should say properties of logarithms on the top. Okay, just like that. So, oops, an S, logarithms. All right, if you don't have one, you should go get one from your substitute. All right, now that you have it in your hand, let's go and work out number 1. This is number 1, by the way. I kind of cut off the number, and this is number 3. So we're going to play around with these. Now, the first one is easy, right? It's the log of 6 plus the log of 11. Remember, when you're multiplying, you're just adding the logarithms together. And you don't have to go and evaluate it. You can leave it just like that because it just needs to be written in expanded form. All right, now you can go, let's go find this next one. This one is a little harder. Number 3 is a little harder. First, you've got this 5 going on. So you're going to need to move that in front, okay? But really, the 5 is going with the 6 and the 11. So this is going to be 5 times the log. Now, what is on top? Your 6, right? Log of 6. And then it's minus, because now we're subtracting, all right, because it's a quotient. But remember, you've got 5 again, because this 5 is being raised to the entire quotient here, all right? And then it's going to be log of 11. Now, the way to check that is to do this in your calculator. That's why we're doing them with numbers today, okay? Make sure that whatever you get in here is equal to whatever you get here. Now, if you want to leave the 5 on the outside and do log of 6 minus log of 11, that is perfectly fine. All right, it's understood that you would distribute that later or, not distribute it. So those properties also still work. Okay, so today what I want you to do is number 1 through 10 in class, and then I want you to turn it in before you leave today, so you're not going to have any homework. All right, have a great day.